All right, welcome to this very special interview. My name is Sebastian Saldarriaga, and in this interview, I have a very special guest. His name is Jesse from Apex Crypto Consulting. I found out about Jesse through just looking and researching it on YouTube. And Jesse has something very interesting that the whole XRP community must pay attention to. If you're in the XRP community, if you are starting to do some research about the XRP and XRP Ledger and the new financial system, this is an interview that you do not want to miss. Welcome, Jesse. It's a pleasure to have you here.
It's so nice to be here. I'm honored to be invited here. I really appreciate. Really nice to meet you. It's an honor.
Awesome. The honor is mine. Jesse has been doing a lot of research for many years, and he has been able to do over 10,000 hours in research in the XRP Ledger and with everything that is going on right now and all the stuff that I've been talking about in all my videos and channels about how we're about to do completely 180 in the way that the financial system works. And it's all going to be based in blockchain and this distributed ledger technology. And Jesse has found some very critical information that a lot of people are not paying attention to or that they don't even know about this. So how about, Jesse, if we start talking about how the BIS and the different central banks around the world and the biggest financial institutions are naming this whole change or this new financial system in different ways to lie and deceive most of the population, most of humanity, so that they cannot take advantage of this real big opportunity, one of the biggest opportunity, if not the biggest opportunity we have right now as retail investors, which is investing in these crypto assets that are going to be the rails or the plumbing or of the new financial system. So, for example, there's some different names that they're calling it, like, for example, the Project Agora or the Global Real-Time Settlement System or the Finternet or the Shared Ledger or the Unified Ledger, all these different names that you have been able to research and find in the different documents. Why don't we start by talking about that? Because I think that's the biggest thing that people have to realize right now, that they're totally trying to deceive you. They're trying to lie to you. But in reality, they're talking about the same thing, and it's the XRP ledger.
Yeah, I really appreciate that you wanted to bring me on the show to specifically talk about that because the advantage I had is that I was past like numerous years I was not creating content, so I was just reading and researching everything that everybody was putting out. While a lot of people were busy doing videos, I was just consuming everything that they were putting out and deep diving myself and researching. And I've realized, so for example, they'll talk about, like you said, shared ledger, the BIS. So let's look the BIS first of all. It's the central banks for all central banks. It's a bank for international settlements. And they're connected to every central bank in the world. And every central bank has, most of the central banks, not all, but they have what are called real-time gross settlement. And all the commercial banks for that country are connected to the central bank of that country. So the BIS is the behemoth. I mean, it's the central banks for all central banks. So it comes from up there. Like that's the beast. that's
Yeah.
that's the big mother right there. So in their numerous projects that they have via the innovation hub, which I believe is like 41 or 43 projects, a lot of them are about CBDCs, distributed ledger, so on. But they're all talking about, like you said, a shared ledger. Sometimes they talk about a unified ledger concept, regulated liability network, and then the US. So in the UK, I think it was the regulated liability network. In the US, they call it the regulated settlement network.
Mm.
And then they said we're looking at the Finternet, but it's all the same thing. Like you said, they're using different names. And I'd like to really take a few minutes to really explain that, how I came to identify and really prove from their own documentation that this is all the same thing. So, first of all, a lot of people don't realize that the regulated liability network used to be called the regulated internet of value. In a first Citigroup document, Citibank document in 2021, they called it, the first time it was ever mentioned, they called it the regulated internet of value. But immediately they changed the name. They said, we can't call it the regulated internet of value. Everybody knows the internet of value is Ripple, right? The CEO of Ripple and everybody at Ripple have been saying for 8 years now, 7 years, we're creating the internet of value. We're creating the internet of value. They've been repeating that. Ripple is the internet of value, and everybody knows that. So Immediately, they said, we can't call it that. So they changed the name to the Regulated Liability Network. And the finternet is just another word for financial internet. Again, instead of saying internet of value, they say financial internet,
Mm.
internet of value, finternet. That's why they say finternet. But you're always seeing that unified ledger concept and so on. So I spent thousands of hours researching Quant and XRP and everything in regards to utility and so on and so forth. And so Quant, when the CEO of Quant Overledger, which is providing the interoperability for the majority of the projects for the Innovation Hub for the BIS, they haven't fully admitted that yet, but they've been chosen for a few projects, especially the Regulated Liability Network and so on. So obviously, because Quant is so crucial for interoperability, and for the legacy systems and commercial banks and central banks to fully be able to use blockchain properly and adopt blockchain, Quant is literally, a long story short, Quant is going to be technically the interoperability solution for the majority of the BIS. So while he's being interviewed, while he's talking, it's still on their website, actually, the Quant website, when he's talking about the regulated liability network, he says, we also partnered with R3, who's bringing in over the shared ledger where all the tokenized assets will reside. Now, what he means by that is, in my opinion, he doesn't mean that only Ripple is tokenizing everything. It's not only the shared ledger, but what he means by that is this is the internet value. When he says all the assets will reside there, to me, he's talking about the liquidity, the XRP ledger acting as the global bridge asset. Because obviously there's other blockchains doing tokenization too. So he couldn't mean that only the shared ledger is doing the tokenization. Excuse me. So he said, we partner with R3, who's bringing over the shared ledger. And then Tony McLaughlin, in one of the episodes, Tony McLaughlin is the head of technology for the Citibank. He's always sitting on stage with Gilbert Verdian, the CEO of Quant. He admitted that, and I have the documents of that episode, the transcript. He said that the shared ledger and the regulated liability network are the same thing. He says literally, if you take all the banks, their databases, and you merge them onto a shared ledger, essentially that's what the regulated liability network is. So it's confirming that and then I've got another document that says that the regulated liability network used to be called the regulated internal value, like I was saying.
Yeah.
So now we know the shared ledger, regulated liability network, regulated internal value, it's the same thing. Then in that same document, I think it's central bank, it's Deutsche Bank, I think it's a central bank, they say that when the BIS talks about the regulated liability network, the RLN, they call it the unified ledger. So this document is admitting that unified ledger, the central bank of all central banks, will call the regulated liability network the unified ledger instead of saying RLN. So now we know that the regulated liability network, regulated internal value, shared ledger, and the unified ledger is the same. Then there's another document saying that the regulated liability network, which is technically all those four different terms, right? Terminologies. The regulated liability network has the potential to become a new global real-time gross settlement, global RTGS. So when we look at the documents that leaked out from the Hyperledger Foundation, where they laid out the internal value, which was 14-page document like 7 years ago, it showed how they were building the internal value. Ripple was at the core of it. And it showed that XRP Ledger was the global RTGS.
Hmm.
But the documents are showing that the regulated liability network could become, and when they say could, they mean will. They're always talking in theoretical language, right? Oh, we're testing, we're seeing if it could work. Maybe these are just hypothetical. No, this has been planned for years. This has been planned for years. So they always say could, would, because they know us. They know we're researching. People are going to, but they have no choice to put it in documents because they have to communicate somehow.
Yeah.
Like central banks and commercial banks and fintechs and the regulators, they have to communicate. So they have to put something in documents. If it wasn't for that, they wouldn't put anything on documents, but they have to because they have to communicate somehow and put the PDFs together and the research. But in their documents, they're always saying could, maybe, we're testing. It's a concept, like the unified ledger concept. And then actually, I'll add a cherry on top. The head of the BIS innovation, not the big guy. This guy is a tiny guy, not a big guy. I can't remember what his name is. But anyways, I have a video of him. Not sure if you saw it on my website, on my channel, but he's saying that the unified ledger replaces Swift, right? So we all know that Ripple is replacing Swift. Again, me and you both, we could pull up 1,000 videos right now of Brad Garlinghouse and David Schwartz and all them saying we're replacing Swift. Everybody knows that XRP Ledger is replacing Swift.
Yeah.
So here's the head guy or the head of technology for the BIS, that's the central banks for all central banks, saying that the unified ledger is replacing Swift. We know Ripple is replacing Swift. So I'm showing like 7 different angles that the unified ledger, shared ledger, it's all the same thing. But there, and also if you look at all the projects with the BIS2, Project Enbridge, Project Agora, all those different projects, they have 40 different names. Technically, most of them are the same thing. Project Jura, Project, like I said, Enbridge, Agora. What's the other one? Anyways, there's so many of them. It's all the same thing. It's literally, it's describes Ripple to the T. Everything Ripple does, it describes it and talks about a shared ledger or unified ledger or so on and so forth. But yeah.
How interesting. So they're trying to keep people from knowing the truth. Like they're trying to, with all these different names, trying to confuse the retail investor like us. Same, we were just talking about this before we started this interview. It's like they're trying to scare away the small investor, starting from the lawsuit, which in my opinion it was just political theater to scare away the weak hands and the people who don't understand that this kind of decisions, for especially when it comes to the financial system, are made way in advance. They're made decades ago. And this is not something that happens all of a sudden by coincidence, that the powers that be or the central bankers of the world decide all of a sudden because something happened and then they decide, so we're going to use this technology or not. Like this is all part of what we've been talking about here in this interview, and what I also been talking in my videos, where this has been part of an agenda that has been started since 1989 or something like that, where like we should talk about a little bit about that cover of The Economist where the phoenix is rising and it says prepare for a new world, digital world currency, and there's the fiat burning at the legs of the phoenix. And I would like to know a little bit about data from your perspective. And why do you think they deceive us or they try to lie to us so that people don't take advantage of this? What do you think is the reason why this whole thing happens? And but also why there's a reason why they give those little hunches and those little tips here and there with like their covers of magazines or with movies or cartoons, because we've seen it all over. But obviously the majority of people can't see it because they're, first of all, they're totally hypnotized and programmed to not even pay attention to this stuff. But a certain amount of people, a very small percentage of people, are paying attention and they're starting to wake up and they're starting to realize the importance of taking advantage of this unique opportunity.
Yeah, that's a really good question. A really good question. Why are they giving us hints sometime, and by the same time, they don't want us in? Oh, I'll try to answer this in less than 20 minutes. There's so much I want to share with you. I think one of the reasons for XRP, I think they didn't want us in. Obviously, they don't want us to be filthy rich. I think they want us to be sheep. That's the agenda. They're trying to kill the middle class. I think that's pretty much been proven that there's an agenda to kill the middle class, because only the middle class can defend themselves, right? The super poor, not much they can do, but that's a whole other story by itself. But I think obviously they don't want everybody to get rich from it. But at the same time, I think I had found a video, I think it was an article, it was a deep research paper, involved like intelligence agencies, and Ripple was involved. There's so many different organizations involved at high level in this paper. And the guy was reading the paper. Unfortunately, I can't find it, but there was something in there, and it was talking about how there was this new layer of money, and it was, they should not kill the golden goose. I think for the other reason, I think they wanted to suppress the price, or maybe not the price to take off, not everybody to find out, is because I think they needed the price, and this is just speculation, but I think they needed the price to stay low for a while. They didn't want the price to take off, because if everybody realizes that, hey, this is a new layer of money, they might back it by gold or peg it to a bunch of commodities, and maybe XRP goes to 5,000, 10,000 each. If the word leaks out that, hey, this is a done deal, like this is going to happen, it's the chosen one, it's the new internet of value, literally all the utility, the value of the world is going to flow through this one asset with a limited supply, there could be a rush, the same way we've seen rush in other asset types, just like maybe like a rush for gold or what. I think they don't want the price to get away from itself, to get away from them just yet. I think maybe one of the, because if everybody finds out, everybody's going in, right? And it just caterballs, right? So I think that's one of the reasons too. They don't want everybody to know. And I think that this is a great advantage for Ripple, which I see as technically the IMF. disguised, right? The Ripple would never be allowed to do what they're doing if they weren't backed, like you said, by the central bankers and the IMF and the whole agenda. But I think for me, a major advantage they had and this is again just speculation, but a major advantage they had of the price staying low is that they can incentivize almost every partner. The lawsuit literally leaked out information, said there was 1,700 NDAs, right? Non-disclosure agreements, contracts that Ripple had with numerous fintechs and banks and so on to bring adoption and utility to Ripple. So 1,700 contracts that they've done, right? So imagine if they go to a partner and let's say they go to a network, a fintech that has, let's say, 500 banks connected, like I don't know, we'll use a CLS, for example, a fintech that helps with payment processing and so on. If they go to them and say, hey, bring your volume, bring your network to the XRP Ledger, to RippleNet, we'll give you, if you bring your utility to the network, we'll give you this many XRPs at 50 cents, half a dollar each. And then in 3, 4, 5 years, when we go live, let's say XRP goes to $1,000, you'll multiply your money 2,000 times. Nobody can say no to that.
Yeah.
But if XRP price takes off too quick and XRP goes to $1,000 or even just $100, now the incentive is not even remotely close to what it was before. Because now they're going to partner and say, it's $100 XRP, we'll give you 500 million XRP. As long as you do this and this, if you keep your end of the agreement, in 3 years from now, the smart contract will release these XRPs to use. You're going to get them $100, and we're thinking that in 3 years it's going to be worth 1,000. The incentive's not the same. You multiply the money 10 times as opposed to multiplying your money 2,000 times.
Yeah.
So I think there was a great advantage of keeping the price low for a while so that they can literally incentivize all the partners and everybody that needs to be brought in to create this new internet of value. Is what I'm suspecting is one of the reasons too that they would have an advantage that they'll have of keeping the price low. And so for your other question about the Rising Phoenix article, like why do they put that on the front cover and at the same time try to hide it? I think when they put that out, I think it's to communicate maybe, and again, this is just speculation, but I think they're trying to communicate to the leaders of the world to where this is going. But again, they can do that in secret meetings as well. But I think maybe it's just to prepare the people a tiny bit, just to give a general idea. Because the article just said they didn't describe to the T what it was. And again, the article just said that, the IMF would be the best candidate to manage this type of currency. But instead of just flat out saying, hey, we're going to do this and this is the new special drawing rights of the IMF. Because a lot of people talk about the front page of the article, like the front page, the Economist magazine, the Rising Phoenix, but nobody ever talks about what the article actually said. And so when you take the article and you literally put it in the AI and say, just give me the overall of this article, what is it saying in a nutshell? The article says is literally they want to create a new currency and it's going to help with trade, global trade, liquidity, and FX. Exactly what Ripple does to the T. And then the article argues that the IMF would be the best candidate to manage this type of currency because of their experience with the SDR, which failed. The special drawing rights was supposed to do exactly what XRP is doing, but it failed. So technically, you see them creating the special drawing rights in 1968, and then President Nixon removes us from the gold standard, removes the US from the gold standard, which the whole world was literally attached to.
Yeah.
And I'm just suspecting, and I can't prove this, and this might not be the case at all, but I just find it weird that they create the special drawing rights in 1968, and then President Nixon shoots the dollar, removes us from the gold standard, and I'm thinking, like, could it be possible that he wanted to help the IMF be successful with the special drawing rights or something? I don't know. I just find it odd that they happen at the same time. But anyways, the special drawing rights is created in 1968, 1969, pretty sure it's 1968. But at the time, they only gave it to the central banks, or they only gave it to certain banks. They didn't distribute it to tech companies and retail investors and fintechs. It was just for the banks. And for that reason, my understanding, my research is it never got that global liquidity and it never got the use cases necessary to make it super liquid. So it failed because of the way they planned it. And then you see 1988, 20 years later, they come up with a new concept, a new approach. And the article also argued that this new digital currency, the way they would be successful in providing help to the FX market and global trade and global liquidity, the way they would succeed is that they would relentlessly integrate it into everything with relentless integration. And what is Ripple doing? They're relentlessly integrating Ripple into everything. So literally build as many use cases as you can because they need it liquid. This is their main product is on-demand liquidity.
Really?
And the Hyperledger Foundation document called the global RTGS, the XRP Ledger, it called it the new global liquidity marketplace.
Wow.
So everything has to be liquid to it. This has to be like super liquid to almost everything. And then you have the crazy advanced technology of the XRP Ledger, and you've got a built-in DEX, and you've got an order book, and now they've got also the most advanced automated market makers as well. Then you've got the multiple hop or something. I think like with XRP, it finds the cheapest pat, and like it's just so advanced when it comes to bridging one asset from one asset to another, being like that liquidity layer between
Yeah.
asset. It's unbelievable how advanced it is, and because of David Schwartz and the other people behind it,
Oh,
right?
interesting. Wow. So one of the things that I wanted to add here about the price, I believe that they're keeping the price down, or they've been keeping the price down for all these times, is because they also need to all these institutions, like you're saying, to start piling up to get ready for before it's too late, before it's too expensive. They want them on board. Plus, the incentives you're talking about is huge. I never thought about it that way, but yeah, those incentives are huge for everybody to jump in at a much better price, and then have the incentive that is going to go to way higher, and they're going to multiply their money. And on the other hand, I believe that another way for them to like keep the people that are not, that don't have the conviction, like very little people in the world, if you think about it, they don't know this. Very little people know what we're talking about. Very little people, and the majority of people that get into XRP, they don't do this research. They don't have this conviction. They don't read between the lines. They don't see what's behind the veil that they put, and they don't have that critical thinking that makes them think. So, why is this so important for me to pay attention and to really dig deep into this, and have suspended doubt and look into why they're hiding it, why they had a lawsuit, why there's 1,700 NDAs, why the, all of this, there's something behind it. And most people can't have the critical thinking to say, let me research, let me put the time to understand, so that those people can go to have that conviction and that
Mm,
extreme conviction, like you and I and many other people in the community of XRP community. They see they have the conviction, and they can hold for a long time. I've been holding for many years, and I don't care. Because I know what I have, and I have that conviction, and I read between the lines, and I see all the signs that are out there. But people, they don't wanna believe, they don't wanna have that conviction, because they're not saying, like, they're not saying it to your face. They're just saying it to
mm,
your face, but in an indirect way. And another thing that I wanted to ask you, and your position in this, is that I believe that also the elite wanna leak. They have to leak little hints here and there, because they also want only a very few people that are critical thinkers to take advantage of it. They don't want people that are just the ones that are just speculating, and they want to get rich in 2 weeks, or in two
mm,
week or in 2 months. They don't have conviction. They want the people, because I've been looking at riddles. I've been studying this for a very long time. And in the past, in history, the elite communicated through riddles,
mm,
and they only want the people that can see the riddles and read the riddles to be able to profit with them, to be able to be a part of that group, to be able to benefit from this kind of things. They don't want the people who are completely hypnotized and programmed by TV, programmed by the media to get rich. They only want the people who are really digging in and have that conviction. So what do you think about this that I just mentioned?
yeah, yeah, and I think, like, they do have codes between them too, like, like you said, they do know the language, there's certain things, so, like, when they're talking unified ledger, everybody that every central banker knows they're talking about the XRP ledger. Everybody else doesn't know,
Yeah.
except for us, we're spending a lot of research, a lot of time, you said, so they know, like you said, when they're talking in code and using these different words, they know what they're talking about. Everybody else is not sure. But I think the big problem too is, like you said, like the big problem is the mainstream media. And what people need to understand, people would really help their families and themselves so much if they just told themselves, understood that the media is literally just a marketing machine. When you're watching mainstream media, tell yourself you're watching a movie. That's what the problem is. People are watching mainstream media and they think it's actually news, but they're not realizing literally 95% to 98% of it's been controlled for almost 80 to 90 years. You
Yeah.
have 6 corporations that own about 95% of media, and so they set the policy at the top. They set the narrative, and it
Yeah.
trickles down through all the CEOs and presidents, vice presidents, and all the article editors, and everybody has to follow that policy. If it doesn't fit the narrative, it's not published, and that's it, that's all, and that's how they control our brains, control our way of thinking. Same for the school system. I'm not
Yeah.
against school and getting education, but at school, you're learned to just work for somebody for the rest of your life. Never think outside the box. You should be an employee. Anyways,
Yeah.
that's another story by itself. But if you look at the media, how they played with Bitcoin, right? When Bitcoin came out, they said, oh, it's complete trash. It's the worst thing. It's a scam, so on and so forth. At the same time that they were saying that, the biggest corporations in the world, JP Morgan, all those guys, same people who control mainstream media, they were loading their bags. They
Yeah.
were buying like crazy. They did the same thing with the internet. The internet was the greatest transformational technology in history to a certain degree. It was the first time people made like billions and billions of dollars, what we call the ultra rich. It was unheard of before the internet. The
Yeah.
internet brought a wealth that society has never seen before. Now we're going to blockchain, which is even more powerful because now we have a token that captures the utility of a network. And that's a whole other story. But we're going from the internet age to the tokenization age or tokenization revolution, the fourth industrial revolution. But
Yeah.
the internet was the greatest like wealth creation in history. Like people are building an application and making billions of dollars. Prior to the internet, you had to spend 200 years building a business. You had to inherit a business from your great 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 grandparents in order to be worth 50 billion. Now you create an app in a basement, and 5 years later, you're worth like $27 billion. That was because of the internet. But my point is, what was the media saying when the internet started? Same story. Oh, stay away from it. It's only going to be for money laundering and sex trafficking and illicit finance. They were scaring everybody
Yeah.
while they were buying all the corporations. The first one, the AOL and Netscape, they were laying the foundation. They were making sure that their bags were full. They were taking the positions while they were scaring the masses. And then once they have all their positions, they're ready. Then media starts saying, oh, I think this is good. This might be the best thing we ever saw. This might be the most profitable thing you'll ever invest in. And they start speaking that language after they're all invested. And this is for every industry. I have to be careful what I say, but people need to understand when you're watching the media, you're watching a movie. If people just understand that, like going to the theater watching a movie is no different than watching mainstream media news.
Yeah.
And like to me, this is not financial advice. I have to give that disclaimer. We're not financial advisors, entertainment purposes only, and I'm not a health professional anyway. But to me, like whatever mainstream media tells me, almost without researching anything, I can almost tell you I should be doing the opposite.
Yeah.
Like it's that manipulated. But I think that's the problem, right? So for Bitcoin, they said it's trash, stay away from it. Now the JP Morgans, all those guys are investing in Bitcoin. Now they're starting to talk positive about Bitcoin. But their real money is not in Bitcoin anymore because Bitcoin already did like a million X.
Yeah.
Market cap is 2.4 trillion. You might double or triple your money, but that's not where the real money is going to be made. So now they're talking about Bitcoin. Now that nobody's going to get rich from Bitcoin. I'm sorry. If somebody invests 2 million, 3 million, they might double, triple their money. Maybe this year, maybe they'll double it. But they're not going to multiply their money potentially 1,000 times or 2,000 times like they might with XRP and XDC and Quant and these other projects that are still 2,000 times cheaper, some of them, 2,000 times cheaper than Bitcoin when
Yeah.
you look at the market cap, right? So again, so now they're talking positive about Bitcoin now that there's not a fortune to be made. And they've got their goons too, like you see very prominent people that are coming from real estate or other industries saying that Bitcoin's the only one you should look at. I got to do a video on that too because that really frustrates me how they're deceiving people about only look at Bitcoin as the best one.
Yeah.
It's probably one of the last ones you should look at. Like, no, it's still going to go up. But so again, mainstream media, and when you're watching mainstream media and they show you the top 4 or 5 cryptos, they're always skipping over XRP. They're going Bitcoin, Ethereum, and then whatever. XRP is not there. Why is XRP not there? It's supposed to be third on the list. How is it that it just disappeared all of a sudden? So again, they're not talking about the utility tokens that are being laid as the infrastructure right now that are still 1,500 times cheaper than Bitcoin. They're talking about Bitcoin. So now the masses are coming into Bitcoin when there's not that much money to be made. They'll still make some money a bit if they go in right time or come out at the right time or hold for 5 years, but you're not going to turn $5,000 into 5 million, 10 million. No. And I just want to add one more thing, Sebastian. Sorry. People need to realize, and I'm so happy you have me on the show because I know you have so many followers and people respect you. People need to understand that the first internet website, the first internet companies didn't even survive. The Netscapes, the AOLs, they never even survived. It's the first technology is never the best one. Bitcoin was the first. It probably won't even survive, is my opinion. Probably won't even survive.
Like Napster.
Yeah, exactly. Napster, AOL, Netscape, they didn't survive because the first one is never the best one. Come on, guys. The first airplane was not the best airplane. The first microwave was not the best microwave. The first car, the first truck, we could go on and on. The first TV. The first TV, was it really the best TV? Like, no. And this is the same throughout all technologies. The first one is never the best one. My goodness, it was just invented. Then they start working on it and improving it. So Bitcoin, I feel bad for the ones that are solely focused on Bitcoin. I'm going to try to do a video. Hopefully a lot of people watch it, but it's such a big deception. It's such a big deception. And for the Bitcoin maxis that believe, and it would be nice if that was a true story, that it's going to get us away from the central banks and get us away from government. But that's even worse because the story is not even true. The Nakamoto story is not even true.
Yeah, I wanted to touch that topic. I think that's a great topic because we, as the family of XRP members of XRP community, we get a lot of hate from BTC maxis. It's unbelievable. You post something on X and immediately all these maxis come at you like so hardcore. It's like they're defending something that they don't want to admit or something. But let's talk about that. Let's talk about a little bit like the beginning of blockchain and how there is connections of, because we don't know who Satoshi Nakamoto is. Like nobody knows, right? But there's little things here and there that point to be either, it could be even the CTO of Ripple, Joel Katz, or what's his name?
David Schwartz.
David Schwartz. He could have been, he was working on this, the agency, NSA.
Yeah.
And he has patents for this technology way before the white paper for Bitcoin showed up. So I think this is something that we should touch here because a lot of those maxis jump at people in the XRP community, and a lot of people that don't have that conviction we're talking about here immediately go into fear and doubt, and fear, uncertainty, and doubt, and they sell their XRP. They freak out, they panic, and they sell, and they get out of potentially, again, this is not financial advice, potentially the biggest and most important investment you can ever make in your lifetime, in this lifetime, is because these maxis are threatened. They don't want to admit the fact that what if it's an agency of the United States that created Bitcoin to introduce this technology? And what if there's a reason why we don't know who Satoshi Nakamoto is, and at some point it could come out. So I wouldn't touch that topic with you. And also I want to see what you think about strategy and what they're doing with, I also forgot his name,
Michael Saylor,
and how he's like doing this kind of like a Ponzi almost, and how it could actually destroy Bitcoin at some point and bring it down. Like, I want to see what your thoughts are on this whole Bitcoin situation.
Yeah, so very good question again. Oh my goodness, you're asking the best questions. I could talk to you for 8,000 hours. But nice. So the Bitcoin patent that surfaced that it, like a lot of people have seen now, we call it Bitcoin patent. So David Schwartz, you were right, Joel Katz, has a patent that he filed in 1988. I believe he filed it in 1988, got the patent in 1989. Anybody can just Google search Bitcoin patent David Schwartz. It'll be right there. And it's a patent on distributed computer systems. It's literally distributed ledger technology. It's the Bitcoin patent, literally, right? It's 1989. You're talking 1989, 21 years, or 20 years before the Bitcoin white paper came out, the fake Nakamoto story. And so he was working, like you said, for the most powerful three-letter agency in the world. I just say three-letter agency rather than mentioning him all the time because I'm so
Oh,
paranoid mentioning them.
yeah.
But you're right. You said it. You had it correct. He was working for the most powerful agency in the world at the time. And then a few years later, we have another paper called How to Make a Mint, the Art of Cryptography or something like that, coming again from the same agencies. And they also had the technology. I think it's SHX or SH something 256, which is a Bitcoin technology. So they've had it way before the story came out. And my understanding is the reason they gave us the Nakamoto story is that, to refresh everyone, the Nakamoto story is that we don't know who this person is. He invented Bitcoin because he wants us to be free from the banks and free from big government, and we can do peer-to-peer transaction. We don't need the banking system anymore, and it's going to give us this freedom and this stuff. And the reason they gave us that stories, in my opinion, is so that we would accept the idea of digitization. It's amazing. Everybody jumped in as, oh, this is great. And then coincidentally, the central banks, in less than 2 or 3, 5 years later, are all building CBDCs, central bank digital currencies. Because the problem with Bitcoin or cryptography, like it's great for freedom in the sense of financial freedom. If you invest in the right one, you'll probably make more money than ever. But when it comes to the idea of the Nakamoto story, it's complete opposite. Because once you do a transaction on a blockchain, every transaction that touches that ledger forever is tracked.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like it's complete opposite. Because
Yeah.
once you touch an exchange or you touch any one, you do a transaction and you touch a CBDC or touch an exchange that's regulated by the government, which they're all going to be, as soon as it just touches it once, every transaction from there can be tracked forever
Yeah.
because it's a public ledger. Like it's on the ledger. It's distributed ledger. Right now, me and you can put any address in there and we can see every single transaction that the person has done way back, right back to the Bitcoin, like to the Bitcoin issue, literally.
Yeah.
So it's the story, Nakamoto story is complete opposite. The real story, the real reason is completely opposite of what the Nakamoto story tells us. And to me, it's because they wanted us to accept the idea of digitization. And because, like you said at the beginning, nothing happens without them knowing, without planning. If they didn't want this to come out, first of all, we know they created it. But second of all, even if they didn't, even if they had not created it, we never would have got the technology if they didn't want it. Because they would have shut it down so hard. They just have to pass one law. They say if you're caught with Bitcoin, you get 50 years in prison. Immediately, it would have shut down Bitcoin.
Yeah.
No merchant would accept it. Nobody would hold it. So just the fact that we have it means they want us to have it. Same for the internet. If in my opinion, if the central bankers and the elites didn't want us to have the internet, we never would have had it.
Mm.
Which is what you were
Oh,
saying at the beginning, right?
yeah.
So now, what was the other question? Sorry.
The other question was regarding Michael Saylor and what strategy he's doing, and how people are starting to worry how that could become a potential risk for Bitcoin.
Yeah, I didn't research a lot about, but I saw some posts on X, obviously, which is technically to me the only reliable source for news right now. X, because of Elon Musk. Took him like 6 months to kick out the agencies that were controlling it. But anyways, I just saw a recent post, yeah, that I think it seems that he might have flip-flopped. Again, it's not financial advice, I'm not sure, but I saw some posts where he's flip-flopping, where he said, we're going to do it this way, and then now he's changing the structure of the company or something like that, the shares or something. Maybe you
Yeah.
can elaborate on that, because
Yeah. So what he's doing is he's using the shareholders' money to just buy Bitcoin. And they're saying, and the price of the stock is going down while Bitcoin's price is going up. So is they're saying that as soon as Bitcoin goes down, that whole company could crash, and the investors or the shareholders are starting to wonder what is it that this guy is doing. So it's a little shady because he's using the investors' money to buy more Bitcoin and thinking that Bitcoin is gonna just go up forever. Something could happen with USDT. If something happens with the USDT and as soon as they do some auditing on that company and they're not back to one to the dollar, it could be just that Bitcoin has been inflated, not in a way that is not legal. So there's many speculation going on right now about what Michael Saylor is doing. But so I just wanted to see what you thought
yeah.
about it. But another thing that I wanted to ask you and talk about right now is the fact that Trump is all of a sudden like we have this pro crypto government. And recently he just came out with this speech that is public everywhere where he says that the financial system is antiquated and that it takes forever to send a wire from here to another place and it is expensive.
Yeah.
And I know, and he's talking about, in my opinion, he's talking about the XRP ledger.
Yeah.
Like,
Absolutely.
he obviously doesn't say it, but and one of the things that it caught my attention about how well you explain this is how you grab these documents from the BIS and Project Agora and the Unified Ledger and all these different names of the the potential similarities or the fact that it's the same is that you grab those documents and then you grab the explanation of the XRP ledger in their website and you put it with AI and with Grok and how Grok tells you they're talking about the exact same thing. It's like the similarities are 100%.
Yeah.
So they're literally, yeah, you discover the fact that all of these huge financial institutions, with just like thinking about the BIS, which is like the most important one of all, is not putting the name Ripple and not putting the name XRP ledger, but they are talking about the ledger, the XRP ledger.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, I think that's the agenda, is right there. That's the agenda of the new financial system. That is exactly the opportunity. That's why the potential here is so big, and Ripple is becoming an agency of the United States, or Ripple can potentially become the IMF. I would like you to talk a little bit more about why that could happen and what would be the potential price for XRP if something like that happens. What was your thought about the potential price if Ripple becomes the IMF, or it starts to slowly take the 150 trillion transactions a year from Swift, etc.
They said 150 trillion, but it's actually closer to 1,500 trillion.
Oh, wow.
Again, they were downplaying it because Swift moves between 5 to 7 trillion per day. They don't move, but they're in the messaging for 5 to 7 trillion per
Oh,
day.
wow.
So 5, even conservatively 5 times, but I think it's 5 days per week, not on the weekend. So let's say 250 days, but per year. So 5 times 250 being conservatively, it's a 1.25 quadrillion. It's 1,250 trillion. So again, they were lying there, in my opinion, because Swift, my understanding is, if we look online, how much does Swift move per day? You ask Grok 3, it'll tell you it's 5 to 7 trillion per day. There's 1,250. So it's 12 times more, 10 times more, almost 10 times more than what they said there recently on Swift. That's why I posted and I said they're lying again. It's way more. But yeah, so I'm going to go back to Trump first. Trump's got a obviously completely different agenda than it's going completely against the elites. People who don't know that are just brainwashed. I'm sorry, not to offend anybody, but Trump, I'll say it this way, Trump's mission is extremely different than the previous administration. I think the previous administrations were going with whatever the elites wanted. Now here Trump comes along and throws a curveball because they didn't expect him to be elected. They did everything they possibly could for him not to be elected, and they didn't expect him to. I won't go there, but let's just say they did everything for him not to be president. We'll keep it there. I think you understand, right?
Yeah.
So I think the escrow that Ripple has, I think how it's going to be structured or who's going to get that escrow and so on, I think it would have to change slightly because now Trump's in power. It's not the same puppets as before. So he's not going with the global order of things, I guess would be the best way to say it. He's not going with the global order of things.
Yeah.
So Ripple is still creating this new global reserve currency, this neutral currency. But now Trump's there. So when he's talking about, like you said, he's definitely talking about XRP because we know that FedNow, Ripple was chosen years ago for the FedNow Faster Payment Task Force. And the Faster Payment Task Force and this new revamping of the FedNow was all about faster cross-border payments, instant settlement, liquidity, everything Ripple does. And we have the documents. Ripple was chosen technology at the time and so on. So long story, but FedNow is literally using Ripple for this new infrastructure for all settlement in the US. So you're right. Trump has to be talking about XRP. And the reason he's talking about XRP, the other reason is because XRP is that new bridge, like the neutral currency that they were talking about. If we go way back, because the IMF is also talking about a Bretton Woods 2.0. So another word they have for this, aside from the unified ledger and so on, is the Bretton Woods 2.0. So we have to look, what was the Bretton Woods? What was the first Bretton Woods? What was the Bretton Woods 1.0? It was when the Bretton Woods was created. I think it's the same day that the IMF was created after World War II, if I'm not mistaken. 1950s, is it? I'm not sure. Anyways, but when the Bretton Woods Agreement was created, there was another which it stated that the US dollar would be the global reserve currency. And the US agreed to back it by gold. And so every other country agreed that they would do all of their global trade in US dollar. They would hold US dollar on reserves. In their reserve, they would do everything to denominate their debts in US dollar, whatever. So US dollar was going to be the main global reserve currency to do all the trade. But the US promised, guaranteed under the Bretton Woods Agreement, that they would hold gold. For every dollar that they issued, they would hold a certain amount of gold. And there was an economist at the time by the last name of Triffin, and he said, this is going to be for now, but in the future, this is going to be problematic because whichever country is the global reserve currency, it's going to have to run deficits. And this is going to be problematic in the future. For now, the US is the strongest economy, so on and so forth. But in the future, it's going to cause problems. And this is what we call the Triffin's dilemma.
Yeah.
There was another proposal at the time was called the Bancor. And again, the IMF would have managed the Bancor. It would be this neutral bridge currency. And so this way, a neutral bridge currency would allow every country to do their own monetary policy, and it wouldn't affect the other countries. But when you have a sovereign currency that's tied to a global reserve currency and everybody needs to hold it to do trade, it causes major problems because when the US does monetary policies that are beneficial for its country, it negatively impacts almost every country, for example, because it's the global reserve currency. So their monetary policy affect every other country to a certain degree. So for example, let's say you hold US debt and you're using that debt, the big loan to do global trade, and you have a debt. Let's say you're in the Philippines and you have a debt that's denominated in US dollar because that's the global reserve currency and you have to do all the trade in the US dollar because that's the only thing people accept. And then all of a sudden the US, which holds the sovereign, which is the global reserve currency, and this applies to any country, regardless of which country is the global reserve currency. In this case, it was the US. So if the US, they do monetary policy that strengthens their dollar, that means the peso, like the Philippine dollar, loses its strength against the US dollar. So in the Philippines, their US debt that they have, let's say it's $50 billion, but the US does monetary policy and their dollar becomes stronger. This is not good for another country that's holding US debt because if now they can't repay that debt, it might still be 50 billion, but their dollar has weakened against the US dollar, against the global reserve currency, that sovereign currency that was chosen as. So it causes problems. So that's why Trump and a lot of other presidents and senior people have been talking about this new level playing field. Trump said when he met with the China president, was it the president of China? He said, we talked about this currency and I really don't like how they're devaluing the currency, but soon we'll all be on a level playing field.
Yeah.
This was 2017 or 2019, he said that. But they've all been talking about a level playing field. And the level playing field, my understanding is that now we have a new neutral bridge currency, XRP. Every country can do their own, because Trump said it's the only way that we can have fair trade is we have to have a new level playing field, and we're going to be under it soon. And then in 2020, he was president, but he didn't become president because they stole the election. But technically, I think that would have maybe happened earlier. I'm not sure. But anyways, he said that we're going to have a level playing field. He's referring to XRP because now every country can do their own monetary policy. They don't need to hold US dollars or yens or pesos. They don't need to hold any. They do whatever they want. And when they want to send a transaction, they want to buy oil or sell gold or do any type of global trade, they can just pay with their currency. It's converted into XRP and immediately converted to the other currency that the other country wants. So that's that level playing field. Every country gets to do what they want to do. And this is the new Bretton Woods 2.0 that the IMF is talking about because the Bretton Woods 1.0 again was the US dollar being backed by gold. So if we're seeing a new Bretton Woods 2.0, it's a new global reserve currency, but what is it backed by? And then we're seeing some documents talking about a new global stablecoin that would be backed by a basket of commodities or backed by gold and so on. So I just want people to know that the IMF, one of the most powerful institutions in the world, the lender of last resort, is talking about a new Bretton Woods 2.0. And the first Bretton Woods 2.0 was a global reserve currency that was backed by gold. It was
Mm,
pegged to gold or backed by gold. So when they're talking about new Bretton Woods, this has to be XRP, but is it backed? Is it pegged to gold? Is it pegged to gold and silver? What is it backed by? Just people need to understand the IMF is talking about a Bretton Woods 2.0,
yeah.
and they
Huh.
need to think about what the Bretton Woods 1.0 was.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that's Trump is definitely talking about. Yeah, it's
XRP.
XRP. Sorry, but what else was your other question? I'm so sorry. Went on a little rant there.
No, I think that was it. I think that you answered. I wanted to know what you thought about him saying those words because he's describing the XRP ledger. And then I wanted to talk. One of the questions I had here for you was talking about Bretton Woods 2.0, which is
Oh,
very
okay.
linked to the IMF.
Yeah.
And that's it. So let's move on to another question because I think this is so interesting and just everything links together at the end of the day. And I want to talk about a little bit the potential price for XRP because we're talking about like we touched on Swift, we touched on the potential of it becoming the IMF, Ripple becoming the IMF, and having this neutral currency that is backed by whatever current commodities or whatever that could be the level playing field. So let's say hypothetically, because there's other content creators, very famous content creators such as Clapper, James Clapper, he talks about this domino theory where like he talks a lot about once XRP starts to take the XRP ledger starts to take some of the transactions from the Swift, once the ETFs, like more than 19 ETFs become approved for it, XRP. And then also there's other catalysts such as like the reverse carry in Japan, the reverse carry trade in Japan, and so many other things. So why don't we touch a little bit? I want to see your opinion on the potential price for XRP.
Oh,
Obviously,
yeah.
this is not financial advice or anything. It's just opinions, hypotheticals, but also the value of the Internet of Value. Because if XRP Ledger is the Internet of Value,
Yeah.
what could be the potential value behind this network, this technology, XRP price, basically?
Yeah. So, like you said, not financial advice, guys. We're not financial advisor. Entertainment purposes only. I don't want to write anything in stone, right? I don't want people to get all excited and something happens. But like you said, this is an internet, and I think people are really not realizing that the XRP ledger, the XRP token, is capturing the value of an internet. So for me, when I started researching XRP years ago, one of the things I want to research is what is the value of an internet? Like we have the internet of information, and now we're going into the internet of value. But what does it mean? What's the utility? What's the real value of the internet at a protocol level, right? At the heart, right? At the infrastructure level. What is the value? And I'll put it this way, and people are really underestimating this, I think, in my opinion. That's why I think it's one of the many reasons why I think the potential price for XRP is way more than most people think. Because again, like you have a token that's capturing the value of an internet. So let's say 30 years ago when they created the Internet of Information, they put it on blockchain at the time, let's say, and they would have created 100 billion internet tokens for the Internet of Information. And they
Hmm.
had made a rule hard coded in Genesis at the time of the creation. They would have said there's no data can flow through this protocol, TCP or through the protocols without using the token. Can you imagine what that token would be worth today? Because people don't realize, but we are creating more data right now in 1 minute than we did in 5,000 years combined.
Yeah.
Because if you send a PDF, that's a bit of data. If you send an email, that's a bit of data. Then a picture is way more data. And then a video is way, way more data than a picture. The Internet of Information is literally bridging, the protocol is bridging all this data. So video is a lot more information. When the internet started, it just started with emails and a few websites. They never taught that we would literally have an iPhone later on and we would be creating like one person would be creating like 5, 10 videos per day.
Yeah.
The amount of data that we're creating just with YouTube right now in 1 hour is way more, like 100,000 times more than they created 10 years ago, probably. So all this data has to flow through the Internet of Information through the protocol. But imagine you had a token that literally it had to go through the token every time. You could not be moving that data without the token being used, the value of the token would be ridiculous. So this is how I see Ripple XRP. It's the internet of value. It's like the internet of information, but the difference is this time we have a token that's going to capture the value. Everything has to flow through it.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people think, oh, internet of value is just for, it's not just about cross border. They say cross border because it makes it sound a lot smaller than what it is. Makes it sound like, oh, you're taking some money and you're crossing the border with it. No. When they say cross border, they mean cross currency. They mean FX. It means going from one type of asset to the other. But it's not only going from USD to euro or euro to yen or so on. No. It's what they want you to believe. And what most people don't realize is the more that we're tokenizing everything, everything's being tokenized. Means that the ownership of an asset, for your viewers that might not exactly know exactly what that means, it's the ownership of an asset is being represented in a token. So rather than have a certificate saying you own your house or a certificate that you own your car, you have a token. The internet of value, once it gets its full adoption, everything, it's when you want to sell your car, and for example, and again, there might not be liquidity immediately, but you want to sell your car and you want to buy Google stocks. It'll go from car certificate, it'll go from the token that represents your car, your tokenized car, like the ownership of your car, that's a token, XRP, to a Google stock, tokenized stock. And then you say, oh, you know what? I don't want this Google stock. I want to buy some real estate in Hong Kong. Instantly it goes from tokenized Google stock to Hong Kong real estate token. They're tokenizing everything. So the more you tokenize, the more you're creating these isolated, what's the word I'm looking for? The more you're tokenizing, the more you need a bridge asset.
Yeah.
To bridge all these different islands. So when they say cross-border, I want people to understand Ripple is not the reason they call it internet of value. It's a interconnects everything of value.
Yeah.
From any type of asset that's tokenized, real estate, stock, arts, derivatives, everything, government debt instruments, everything. To another type of asset, any type of asset. So it's any to any. It's not just cross-border about going from euro to Canadian dollars or euro to you. No. It makes it sound smaller than it is. That's why it's called the internet of value. It's an interconnected networks. So again, that's why I think the potential for the price is way more than most people, they're really underestimating, I think. Because people are like, how can it be trillions and trillions of market cap? We've seen recently how the multiplier, and I didn't even know this, I didn't realize this years ago, but when you literally, on the order books, when you buy $1 billion worth of XRP, the price jumps 250 times, anywhere between 100 to 500 times what the purchase was. I forget those names, I would like to give them credit, but the influencers that show that. But you have 30 million goes into XRP on the order books, and the market cap jumps 1.5 billion or 15 billion, right? It's a multiplier of 50, that the market cap grows by anywhere between 200 to 500, 100 conservatively, 100 to 500 times the money that went in.
That's crazy.
So if market cap of XRP is 400 billion, it doesn't need to have 400 billion to go in. You only need $1 billion to 4 billion, let's say, go in for the market cap to go up 400 billion, for the price to double. And the banks are moving 20 trillion per day, my friend. 20 trillion per day. So people look at the market cap, not realizing this is an internet. Forget the market cap. Again, I might be wrong here. I'm just sharing my thoughts on how I see it. Because people are not realizing you're capturing the value of an internet.
Yeah.
Forget the market cap. This is not your average stock. Like, this is, guys.
Yeah, that was another thing I wanted to touch on, is because a lot of people that go against XRP or the maxis, the Bitcoin maxis they all use market cap as an excuse to say why XRP will never hit over $50 or $100. They immediately, and people that are like ignorant to this, that's like their number one thing. They say, oh yeah, so it would have to be all the money and the whole world for it to get to $1,000. That's something that is completely impossible. But once you look at this multiplier effect, once you look at tokenizing of all the assets in the world, everything that has value will become token inside the blockchain. That is where people don't understand the magnitude of what it is. You're saying it perfectly clear in when you're saying that is tokenizing the internet, like if you were tokenizing the internet. Now we're tokenizing. This is like the Web3. This is like the next generation of the internet, but of value. So everything that has value in the world will become a token that will be exchanged, like we exchange it, like when we buy something using crypto. It's going to be the token that you're exchanging for your apartment, for your house, for your car, for stocks, for bonds, for commodities, for whatever is going to be tokenized. And that is exactly where the opportunity lays. When you understand that we're talking about quadrillions of dollars, we're not talking about $1 trillion here or there. We're talking about all the money. Brad Garlinghouse says it. He says it is all the money. They're going after all the money. They're not trying to just take a little bit here of the whole. No, they want the whole thing or they want nothing. They're going for the whole thing. And I believe, like we're talking in this thing, is that this is already been planned. This is not something that they're trying to do. No, there's a reason why the Ripple looks like a three-letter agency of the United States. There's a reason why they have people like Rosie Rios in their board of directors, or all these people that are part of the board of directors that are like already know they've been in the IMF, they've been in the government, they've been in the controller of the currency. They're like these people are, they've been in Amazon. Like these people are together building the internet of value.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to touch, if you don't mind, on the point what you talked about Bitcoin, because you made me realize something. For the Bitcoin maxi, I think there's two issues. First is a lack of knowledge, just lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
Like they're coming in maybe 1-2 years ago in crypto, they think Bitcoin's going to save them. So I think it's a lack of knowledge. And then you've got the maxi state of mind where they believe the Nakamoto story, Bitcoin was created to save us, it's going to help us free us from government. Bitcoin's never going to be that main currency that we're going to use to buy coffee and stuff like that. Like nobody, it's ridiculous. And again, I don't mean to sound rude or be disrespectful, but I have to speak the truth. It's absolutely ridiculous to think that this is going to be used and they're going to say, oh, we have layer 2 and we have this and that and we're going to scale. It's not scalable. Nobody's going to stand at a coffee shop and wait 45 minutes for your transaction to clear. Your coffee is going to be cold by the time you get your coffee, and the people in the lineup behind you are going to kill you. Nobody's going to stand in a lineup for an hour or even 15 minutes, 20 minutes waiting for that Bitcoin transaction to clear and pay $6 fee on a $3 coffee. It's not going to happen, guys. So the problem is a lack of knowledge and the maxi mindset where they believe the Nakamoto story. They want to believe it's going to save us. And unfortunately, like we talked about, the Nakamoto story is not true. It's not true. That's what's unfortunate for the people who are not realizing this and they're stuck in Bitcoin. And again, the market cap is like 2.5 trillion or God knows. And on top of that, they're holding this Bitcoin thing is going to save them. And it's one of the least profitable assets. If you look at the mean one, the ones that have utility, not the 99% that are scam tokens, but tokens that actually have utility, real teams, tokens that have real potential, Bitcoin is the one that probably has the least potential to go up, the least profitable potential.
Yeah.
Because it's so big. And what I wanted to say too is when they say, oh, how can that be possible? When the Bitcoin people say, how can XRP be this many trillion? Just look at the Bitcoin volume. Look at the value of Bitcoin and look how much volume it does, right? Because a lot of it has to do with volume. It's not just volume. It has to do with the order books and everything. But the main thing is volume. One of the main things that makes the price go up and down is volume. And look at the volume of Bitcoin and look at the price, the market cap of Bitcoin, and look at the supply. Supply is important too. But look, again, like I said, look at the volume and then know that XRP is going to process the transaction, is going to be the bridge asset for all central banks, literally, all the central banks in the world. Right now, they're moving 10 to 20 trillion per day. But once you tokenize everything and it starts speeding up, because once you start settling transactions in a few seconds rather than 2 weeks, imagine the velocity. Imagine the amount of transactions that start. Because when the internet started, the amount of data that was moving through the internet is not even 0.00000 infinite 0.01% of what we're moving today. Same going to be for the internet value. It's gonna start off, but in 5-10 years from now, the amount of volume of value that's gonna true this protocol, because you're settling a transaction, you get your profits, you do another transactions right away. 1 minute, 2 minute, 1 minute. You're starting moving value way fast. Because imagine right now through the SWIFT system, you're sending the payment, it's taking literally a week or 2 to get there. There's 7% error rate. There's all these reconciliation mess. It's a big mess. But imagine you send a transaction and within a minute, 3 seconds it's settled. You get your money, you get your profit, you can do another transaction right away. Imagine how that speeds up everything. It speeds up global trade, it speeds up everything. So my point is that when Bitcoin is saying they're saying it's not possible, look at the volume Bitcoin does and look at the price. Now, think about the fact that XRP is going to settle the transactions for the Bank of England, for example. The Bank of England does more volume in one day, just one central bank, my friend. One central bank does more volume in one day than Bitcoin does in a whole year.
Wow.
So the Bitcoin maxis are wrong. They're wrong. The potential of XRP is being Bank of England does more volume in one day than and that's one central bank.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about the Federal Reserve and the Hong Kong Monetary Authority and all the other central banks. There's 150 or 200 central banks in the world. This is just one. It's doing more volume than Bitcoin does in a whole year. It does it in one day. And the Bitcoin maxis say, oh, no, XRP doesn't have, I'm not saying it's going to do it for sure. Like, I can't write it in stone. I'd hate for people, for it not to happen. People be disappointed. But when you look at risk versus potential reward, it's not in Bitcoin, my friend. My money is not in Bitcoin. Not financial advice, but my money is not in Bitcoin.
Mine is not either.
No.
Mine is not either, no.
And then you've got something like Quant.
That train is already long gone. Like people who started buying a long time ago, those are the people that made money. But even though, imagine, because one of the things that I was talking about the other day with my wife was like, imagine those people that bought Bitcoin at $10 or at $20. For them to say you buy 10,000 Bitcoins at $20 or whatever. So for them to be able to have hold until it is right now 100 and whatever it is max all-time high, they would be billionaires. But the reality is that most of these people, because they didn't know and they didn't know how big this whole industry was going to get, most of those people sold at $100 or $150 or $200 because they were already like, oh my God, I invested at 20, now it's at $200 and I made some money. Most people sold early. And that's one of the reasons why I do so many videos about this opportunity here, is because if you have the vision, if you have the conviction, and you are prepared to hold one of the most important assets in the future financial system, you can literally change the whole lineage of your family. Like this could be generational wealth. Obviously, most people won't hold. Most people, in reality, most people are gonna sell when XRP reaches $5, $10, $20. Most people are, because they don't have this knowledge, they don't have this conviction that you and I have. We understand how big this is gonna be. And those are the people who have that convictions, are the people that are not going to sell when they panic. They're not going to sell because they already see millions of dollars in their wallets. They are going to hold for the future, and they're going to maybe use that as collateral. They're going to loan it. They're going to stake it and make a return annually with their money, but they're not going to sell the asset. Now, I wanted to ask you that's one question that I get a lot from people, from my followers. They ask me, Sebastian, what do you think? Are you going to sell the top here in the top market, in the bull market? Are you going to sell it? What is your suggestion for people that think like that? They think, I don't want to hold the bag if it's going to drop down again for 85% in the bear market. What would you do, knowing all the stuff that you know, all these documents you have researched for so many years, your conviction that you have? What would you tell those people?
Yeah, so I can't tell them directly. I can't
No,
give advice, but not financial advice. I think it depends for everyone, right? I think it depends how high it goes, right? I think it doesn't hurt, depending on everybody's situation, but it doesn't hurt for a person maybe to sell 20%, pay off all the debts and put themselves comfortable. Just depends on how much they're holding and what their situation is and so on and so forth. Because like for me, I'm big on Quant, right? I'm big on the QNT token, which is literally 2,000 times cheaper than Bitcoin right now.
Yeah.
So if XRP takes off and it does like a 50, 100x, personally I will sell some XRP and I'll load up my bags on Quant. If XRP does 100x, I'm backing the truck on Quant, but it's only because of what I know in Quant, right?
Yeah.
Because I have that conviction. XRP gives me 100x from here. Let's say $300 or even a 50x. I'm gonna buy some Quant just because why not, right? Rather than see it maybe come back down for a while, because it could go like this and like Bitcoin, right? Up, down, up, down, up, down, went from $1 to 120,000 with a lot of fluctuation. So if there's a ridiculous spike like crazy, 300, 500x, 200x, and there's another crypto that you're sure 100% it's dirt cheap, like crazy, ridiculously cheap, doesn't hurt to sell a bit to buy that one that you think is going to do another 100x, 100x here plus another 100x. So it depends, I think, but people need to understand that myself personally, I'm not going to stake much. If I'm going to stake anything, it'd be maybe 10%, 5-10%, depending on the value.
Yeah.
Just because of, especially not at this price. If it goes, let's say to 5,000, then I would stake maybe a small percentage, 10%, 15%, just because of the value of the token. Like I'm looking at a 5% return. I don't know. Certainly right now, it's not worth staking to me. I don't even, no matter how safe I think the protocol is, I'm not touching anything.
Yeah, me neither.
Staking protocols, I don't care how safe it is because it's not worth it to me. Like an asset that I think is going to potentially do a 5,000x. Why the heck would I even take 0.00001% risk to get a
Yeah.
6% return? To me, myself, I think it's ridiculous. If you know the real value of XRP and some other tokens that you might be holding, why the heck would you risk it for 5, 6, 7% in these staking protocols? So, especially when sometimes you have to lock it in. Price goes up, you can't even sell it. You're locked in and you staked it and would locked in or something. So to me, I'm not playing that game. I think people in general, like what I'm going to look is taking a loan on your XRP, like you said. Like if you can take a loan and you know it's insured, and yeah, I'd have to do, before I take a loan on my XRP, I'm going to have to make sure that there's like insurance on top of insurance, and it's going to have to be pretty secure before I put my XRP. But at the same time, if I take a loan against it, then I can live the life and do whatever I want to do as opposed to selling it. So even if I take a loan on it and something happens, the protocol, something happens and it's hacked or whatever, well, I still took the money out anyways. I'll have to pay taxes on it, unfortunately, at that. But if you take a loan, you don't pay taxes. So for me, it's looking at, if XRP goes to $1,000, $2,000 each, is just taking a loan against it. Might sell a bit, but then I'll just take a loan.
Yeah.
Why sell it? Unless I think if it's 5, 10,000, don't get me wrong, we're talking 5,000. I'm literally gonna back up the truck on, you're gonna see QNT do a 500x overnight. It's gonna be me buying. But yeah, I think it depends, but people need to understand the potential, but it depends on where they're at. If they have other cryptos, they think it's gonna do a 500x and they're still dirt cheap, and how high XRP goes, how quick it goes. Does that make sense to you? Just
Yeah,
curious.
it makes sense. I was just asking you because a lot of people, they hear the flip of the switch and they go, for example, if and a lot of people, they don't have the conviction, so they would sell pretty much all their position because they don't want to hold their bags. And like I said, I think it could be a mistake by selling your whole position in a top market, because
Oh,
it could go down, and then they have the flip of the switch and they all of a sudden.
yes. I understand what you mean, Sebastian. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's a very good chance that real utility tokens like XRP, QNT tokens, and maybe XDC tokens that have real utility, especially XRP and QNT, I think there should be a breaking away from this stupid Bitcoin cycle eventually.
Yeah.
I
So
think if Bitcoin starts going down a bit, but I don't think it's going to affect these tokens. If XRP starts bridging all the money and we're seeing 8, 10, 20 trillion flow through the XRP ledger per day, Bitcoin can go down 80%. XRP is still going up, my friend. So I think the utility is going to start, we're going to start seeing the effects of utility, real utility, like you said, powering the new financial system.
yeah.
And yes, of course, let's say a token like XRP was supposed to go to 5,000 and then Bitcoin crashes 80% because we're going in a bear market. Maybe XRP would have went to 1,000 instead of 5,000, because unfortunately affects the value of all the other currencies, because it has to do with the liquidity pools.
Yeah.
A lot of people are trying to figure out. It took me a while to figure out why does when Bitcoin crash, everything crashes. It's just because of the liquidity pool.
Yeah.
Has to do with liquidity. One Bitcoin is equal to a certain amount of Ethereum. So when Bitcoin goes down, automatically the price of Ethereum goes down because in the liquidity pool, one Bitcoin equals a certain amount of Ethereum. So Ethereum has no choice to go down when Bitcoin goes down. And the same thing. And then you have everything else tied to Ethereum and then everything else tied to Solana. So it does a ripple effect. But my point is, in a bear market, if let's say Bitcoin starts coming down, it's still going to have an effect on the price of everything else. But the utility would usurp that, we would hope. It just, there's no other way. Once the utility kicks in, if a coin is supposed to do 1000x, instead of doing 1000x, it might do 250x because again, Bitcoin came down. Coin does have a down pressure, but the up pressure is going to be ridiculous compared to the down pressure of Bitcoin going into a bear market, if that makes sense.
Yes. And do you think that XRP is ever gonna flip Ethereum and Bitcoin?
Oh yeah, it has to.
Yeah.
It has to.
And in
I'm
that
not
case,
very confident in Bitcoin in 5 to 10 years from now. I'm not very confident because, like I said, we talked about earlier, like the internet, the first companies didn't even survive.
yeah.
Eventually, people will catch on. Extremely expensive, and it's just a store of value. And then we have other tokens here that have a store value too, technically, but they have crazy amount of utility. They're powering global trade and tokenization and this and that. So eventually, people are going to catch on. The money will start flowing. So I think 5, 10 years from now, Bitcoin will start slowing. Maybe 10 years it hits a peak. 10 years or 12 years or 15 years or maybe 6 years. I don't know. But I don't think Bitcoin, I don't agree with the guy that keeps saying Bitcoin's going to go up forever up. I think we know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. Jeez and rice, man. Come on.
Yeah.
It's a store of value. That's it.
That's it.
That's it. Like the big money's going to come in now. The hedge funds, everything, we're getting regulation. The money's going to pour in. Retail people are going to come in. All the money, Bitcoin's going to go up because the first one people are pouring in because of the lack of knowledge. It'll go up. But this idea that Bitcoin's always going to go up and is the only one and it's the best one, and my goodness, it's going to hit $100 million, and the guys, I don't know what. Anyways,
Yes.
it's
It's
a
like,
store of value. That's it. It's a store of value. It's gold 2.0.
yeah.
We've got real tokens here with real utility. They're real use cases that are going to power new financial systems and global trade. And yeah, so that's what I think.
Mm.
Bitcoin can't keep going up forever. Eventually, it's going to hit it's not even going to be worth it, anyways. If Bitcoin even hits 2 million, what's the risk versus reward? It's not there.
Yeah.
It's better than holding fiat because the central banks keep printing and printing. I'm not saying it's not better than holding fiat. I agree with that. But the idea that Bitcoin is going to keep doing 10x, 20x forever is nonsense. It's nonsense. I just have to say it like it is. It's nonsense.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. I agree. So, what do you think that fiat is gonna disappear? Like, cash is gonna disappear at some point. And when do you think that this utility market is gonna really explode? Like, when we're gonna see the FOMO, when like that flip of the switch would start to happen?
Yeah. We're definitely going to have a cashless society. As a Christian, I'm a Christian myself. I believe in the Bible. It's right there. Jesus spoke about it 2,000 years ago. He said there's going to come a time where you're going to be forced to, it says it's the mark of the beast. You're going to have to take something in your hand. A mark's going to be on your hand or on your forehead, and you won't be able to buy, sell, or trade without it. So if you can't buy, sell, or trade without this mark, it means there's no more cash. And I do believe as a Christian, I believe in the Bible. I believe that it's not only the Bible too, it's documented. The goal is to move us into a cashless society. And this is why CBDCs, I'm dead set against CBDCs, but it's going to happen. It's part of prophecy. It's been planned for years, and the central banks get their way. So the cashless society is definitely coming. I don't know if it's 10, 15, 50 years. So that's definitely happening, unfortunately. It's all about control. That's why I think it's very important to position yourself in the right cryptocurrencies, because I don't think there's anything that has even remotely as much potential for at least having money to help, your family and help others while we go through this craziness that is likely coming in the next 10, 20, 50 years. We're already seeing it. It's craziness what the governments are doing right now, what they're getting away with. And then the flip of the switch, to me, I think the ISO 20022, November 22, we don't know for sure, but the whole ISO, in my opinion, people have to understand that the whole goal of ISO 20022 is for Ripple to be successful, in my opinion. Because you can have instant settlement, right? The ledger can settle instantly. But if the banks are not communicating the same language, so the ISO 20022 is technically having a common format globally for all the banks to speak the same language, meaning that when they receive the message for the first line says the client's name, second line account number, third line recipient, sender, address, bank account, institution number, branch number. The format is the same for every bank.
Yeah.
Because prior to the ISO 20022, what was happening is a bank in certain country doesn't have the same messaging format as another bank. So they send a payment and it's so convoluted because for some banks, you have the client, and I'm not sure if I'm explaining it. I'm just giving a general idea.
Yeah.
My understanding of it is for one bank, you have the client name, institution number, and the address. The other bank, you have the institution, the client name, and maybe the branch number and the address. So it's not even the same messaging. Like it's not even the same format.
Mm.
So this needs to be standardized and attached to the transaction so that when the payment settles instantly, they make sure that they have all the information for the recipient, the sender, the account number, where it came from, where it went, all these things. It has to be standardized. And this is finally being finalized November 22. And it seems that they're not going to push it again. So I think potentially after is where we see fireworks.
So we can see fireworks starting November, and then next year we can start seeing like NDAs being public now and more of that stuff once we get regulations from the Clarity Act and the different regulations that are going to start coming through. Yeah, I mean, there's so many things coming.
Talking about the value, though, the potential value.
Yeah.
I think once the ISO, like it's everybody's on, because they said November 22 is the cutoff. If you're not on, your bank cannot even function. So final cutoff. So now all the banks are talking the same language. They can send a payment message and settle instantly with XRP and XRP is the only blockchain on the ISO 20022 governance body, helping to steer the governance and standards of the ISO 20022.
Wow.
ISO 20022 was started the same year as OpenCoin, I believe, or maybe not same year, sorry, but ISO started in 2004 before Bitcoin. In my opinion, they had to line up. The reason they're creating ISO 20022 is because they know they're putting everything on distributed ledger technology and you need to settle transaction instantly. But like I said, you can't settle a transaction instantly if the banks are not talking the same language. If you settle the transaction, but you don't know which account, where it came from, who it went to, who it was supposed to go to, because the messaging is not standardized, it's a big mess. So in my opinion, because we know it's been planned for many years, this is why they needed the ISO 20022 standardized. So once that is standardized, well, it's all standardized, but so Ripple is like I said, only bank, is the only blockchain company, this religious technology company on the governance body for the ISO 20022. It's the only blockchain company on the cross-border payment task force for the Bank for International Settlements. This is the cross-border interoperability task force for the BIS.
Wow.
Ripple is the only blockchain company on that one. You could go on and on. Sorry, I just have to clear my throat. I've been talking a lot.
No worry.
So yeah, I think ISO is a big one.
Yeah. So another thing that I wanted to touch on is the possibility of, we would touch a little bit about CBDCs and the United States, Trump saying that he's against it. But in my opinion, CBDCs are the same thing as a stablecoin. One is from the government, one is from a private company. But another thing that has been talked about a lot is the universal basic income and the possibility. Because right now we're in a really such a strange time in humanity, where we have robotics, humanoid robots, artificial intelligence, and blockchain. Those three technologies are going to change the way we live, and a lot of people are going to start losing their jobs. And Elon Musk already has been saying that there's a very big chance that very soon we're going to be getting, or most people are going to be getting, a universal basic income. And in my opinion, that's when the governments are going to say, we're going to pay you this universal basic income in a CBDC. And that's obviously, we don't like CBDCs. Nobody likes CBDCs. It's like a very, they can control us through that very well, because they're going to, as soon as you don't do something that they don't want you to do, they can literally block your CBDC account and your universal basic income. And then you're going to be able to, you're going to be forced to do whatever the government does. But since we're talking about cashless societies and the way that we're moving towards, I would like to know your opinion on this matter, because I think is something that is in a lot of people's minds. And on top of that, a lot of people talk about something called Yesara and Esara. In my opinion, that's like a hope that people have, and I don't think that is ever gonna happen. And people like dream about this, and oh yeah, they're gonna forgive us, forgive our mortgages, and forgive our loans and all our debts. In my opinion, I don't think that's ever going to happen. That's like some hope that people have in their hearts. And but I would like to know your opinion about this too.
Yeah, appreciate it. Very good question. Yeah, I have a family member, very close a family member, sorry, that's very done a lot of research on the Jazera, and I'm like, listen, it's not happening. It's not. This world's getting worse. They're not going to cancel all the debts and then deliver us gold bars every week, and
Yeah.
then we all have med beds. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
The world's too corrupt for that. Trump would have to live 100 years for that to happen. He's the only president doing things that would even guide us into somewhat in a society that way. Like, it's not happening.
Yeah.
It's hopium. It's not happening.
Just hoping.
No, they think that everybody's going to be forgiven their debt, and we're. No, I don't agree with the Jazera at all. And then they're tying it into XRP, which I don't agree. And then the whole quantum financial system,
Yeah.
which is tied to the Jazera. There's not one document coming from the central bankers or commercial banks or the regulators or the IMF or World Bank or any of them mentioning the quantum financial system once. Doesn't even exist. To me, it's a word that they made up, the whole Jazera community. And I'm not trying to put them down in any way. It's like, has nothing to do with Quant over Ledger, has nothing to do with XRP. It's not, like I said, like that word doesn't exist in any of the central bank documents. Quantum financial system. I don't know where they took it. It doesn't exist.
It's sad. It's very sad, because people have this hope, this hopium, and they're thinking that they're gonna come save them. And in my opinion, nobody's coming to save you. You have to save yourself, and you have the opportunity right now to save yourself by learning about this technology, by starting to invest and accumulate certain cryptocurrencies. And you're going to be able to have a much better position than the rest of the people that are not prepared. But this thing of the Gesera and the quantum financial system, I'm so sad that people still believe that. And then they have it so close to their hearts. They really think they're going to come and save them. It's very sad.
I do believe that there is like maybe a white hat community and there are powerful people in the government and stuff that might be trying to do something like that. I'm not trying to say that there's not people trying to do this Jazera, whole global reset, whatever. But to me is the idea that the white hats are way more advanced and they have the upper hand on the elites, to me, well, nonsense, because the intelligence agencies are so powerful. People are really underestimating the intelligence agencies, the IMF and the central bankers, and how powerful they are. Now, Trump threw a whole wrench in their program. Don't get me wrong. He delayed a lot of stuff and he's going against them and he's doing a lot of progress. But the idea the idea that you have these white hats that are technically in control, and everything that's happening now is they're just, because that's an Jazera kind of narrative, from my understanding, is that
Yeah.
all the evil we're seeing right now, it's the white hats are completely in control and they're allowing it to happen to expose the elites. Please, my goodness, no. They're not in control. They're not in control. Look at what almost happened to Trump. Like, the white hats are not in control. If they're in control, they're lunatics. Like, they're crazy. They're just as evil as the other ones if they're in control, because they allowed all these people to die in 2020 and all these people to follow these protocols that end up being very bad for us. If the white hats are in control, my goodness. Because the idea is that the white hats are in control, but they're allowing all these things to happen to expose the elites.
Yeah.
It's, to me, it's nonsense, and I feel bad because the person, my family member that believes that, like, it's a really close family member, and I can't even tell you how close I am to this person, but it's like, to me, it doesn't. I've had these debates with that person. It's if they do you really think they're allowing all this to happen? Really, like the white hats are in control and they're allowing all of this just to expose the elites? How much are they going to allow?
I know.
Invasions of all these fake wars. Then you've got the situation in 2020 killed so many people. Then you've got the side effects of the protocol that we had to follow. How much evil are the white hats going to allow to
Yeah.
expose them? It's ridiculous. The white hats are not in control. The intelligence agencies are in control and the central bankers. But like I said, Trump is causing a lot of problems for them. A lot of problems. I wish he could live another 50 years, 100 years, but he won't. But the idea that the white hats are in control and this is all planned and the bad, they're allowing the evil to happen because they want to
Yeah.
expose it, and we're all going to get gold bars tomorrow, and there's going to be no more debt, and we're all going to get medical beds, met beds, and to me, it's not happening.
It's crazy.
It's
So what is your,
sorry.
yeah, I feel the same way as you. I think it's better for you to like research very well and prepare yourself in a way that you're going to save yourself instead of waiting for something like that to happen, because you cannot live on hope. You cannot live on hopium. You when you have such amazing opportunities right now in front of you, if you
Yeah.
but I would like to know also, what do you think about universal basic income and the CBDCs? What's your opinion about that?
Yeah, it's been planned for years by the IMF, the Universal Basic Income, the UBI, and that's the problem. Once inflation keeps going up, people can't survive. Like you said, the jobs are being stripped away. These technologies you mentioned, DLT, AI, and machine learning, I think there's three technologies, or I think two or three
Yeah.
agents and everything, AI agents. These three technologies are like extremely transformational on their own, but they're all emerging at the same time, like you said. And they're also complementary to one another. Like, to me, in 10, 20 years, you won't even recognize the world. Like, it's going to be so different, and so many people are going to lose their job. And so, if a lot of people lose their job, there's going to be good that's going to come out of it, whatever, stimulate the economy, whatever. But to me, the way I'm seeing it is like with inflation and everything, people losing their jobs, so on, they're going to have to rely on the UBI, unfortunately. And they're going to have to rely on CBDC, and they're going to have to rely on the universal basic income. And I think some countries are not gonna be as bad as others, but they're in regards to the dictatorship and everything. But we have sometimes good presidents that are being elected in certain countries that wanna do what's right for their country, but unfortunately, they're usually eliminated or something happens to them
Yeah.
because they're not working for the powers that be. The CBDCs, if you're in a country where you have a good president, it's not about controlling you and he's not working for the people we talked about. It might be, it just depends how evil your government is, and are they working for the agenda, the global agenda of people we can't mention?
Yeah.
And so that's CBDCs, and then, like I said, the universal basic income. People are gonna have to rely on it,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So before we finish this, I would like to talk to you. I would like you to touch a little bit about Quant,
Mm.
because Quant is, in my opinion, is one of those gems that people are ignoring. And I know you're a big fan of Quant, and it's one of my favorites ones. I actually talk a lot about it in my, I have a course where I teach people about, and Quant is one of those that I tell
Nice.
people he's huge. It's like one of those that people are ignoring. So I want your opinion, your perspective on Quant, and why is it like one of your favorite tokens, and why it's such a big opportunity.
Oh my goodness. When you said Quant, I thought, "Do you have another 8, 10 hours?" Or yeah, I spent over 4 or 5,000 hours, I think, researching Quant alone, and when
Mhm.
I started realizing how big it was. Did you happen to watch any of my videos on my playlist, my Q&T playlist?
Yes. Yes.
A few of them, or
Yeah, I pretty much everything. Watched pretty much all your videos because I find them so interesting and so
wow.
refreshing. It's different from most people out there. Like you bring like documents, you bring proof,
Thank
documented stuff. For me, that's so important.
thank you so much. It's an honor that you're watching them, man. Like, it's really an honor. When you reached out to me, it was like, "Wow, look at this guy.
Yeah,
He's reaching out to me. That's awesome.
I'm
Well,
following you, and I pay attention to every word you say, my friend.
wow,
Yes.
so honored." Wow, yeah, because 'cause you've been in this game for long, and I
Yeah.
see your video, and you've got a lot of followers, and you're doing very well. So when you reached out, I was quite impressed. At first, I was like, "Is this a real account or" "No, this is real, man. This guy really wants
Yeah,
to
yeah,
talk to
yeah.
me." Yeah, Quant, so I appreciate you looking at my stuff, and what you're saying is really nice. Yeah, Quant is literally the Microsoft Windows of the 4th Industrial Revolution, to me. We never would have had the internet without Microsoft Windows. So the Microsoft Windows, the operating system in your computer, is what allowed the interoperability for all of the components in your computer to interoperate. To my understanding, right? It allowed them to communicate to one another, every component of your computer, and so that you can just press a button, your computer comes on, and then you like access this new internet world. So Microsoft Windows was one of that main door, like my understanding, the main door that allowed it was like an easy button that allowed you to go into this new world that everybody was talking about, which was the internet.
Yeah.
Never would have happened without Microsoft Windows. So Quant is doing the same thing for blockchain. So now we're going from the 3rd industrial revolution, which was the information age. Now we're going to the 4th industrial revolution, which is tokenization and AI. Some might say that you have the 4th and 5th industrial revolution. I'm not sure how you would divide them, but we're going to the 4th industrial revolution, which is DLT and AI, let's say. But Quant is that door. Quant is doing the same thing Microsoft did. But the difference is Quant has a token that's going to capture the utility of this new operating system. So anytime anything goes through Quant, it's going to have to use a token. So it's capturing the utility of the 4th industrial revolution. It's so Microsoft didn't have a token that you had to buy every time you wanted to go, you had to use every time you want to go to the internet. With Quant, corporations, central banks, commercial banks, developers, anybody using Quant over Ledger has to buy the tokens or buy licenses that are literally they're converted into QNT token and tokens locked up for a year during the period of the license. Like it's a true utility token. You can't do anything with over Ledger without using the token. That's the first thing people need to understand. Excuse me.
Hmm.
So what Quant does is Gilbert Verdian, the creator of Quant, is literally one of the top cybersecurity experts in the world. He was the head of the cybersecurity for a lot of central banks, like the UK Treasury. He was literally responsible for the security of money for the UK. Like he's one of the top cybersecurity experts in the world.
Yeah.
And he knew that in order to have real blockchain adoption, and I'm actually going to create a video on Elixir versus Quant. I'm actually putting it together right now. Elixir is more for cross chain. It's good. It's a very good project, but it doesn't compare to Quant. Doesn't compare at all.
Axelar?
Elixir, sorry. Is it Elixir or XLR?
Axelar, I think it's called.
XLR. Yeah.
Axelar.
XLR. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what Quant does is he understood Gilbert Verdian because his background in cybersecurity and working with the central banks and working with the system. He understood that everything right now that we do is actually in legacy systems. So commercial banks, central banks, and every industry in the world right now operates in legacy systems. Means they cannot communicate to blockchain. So they don't have interoperability with blockchain, with DLT. They cannot communicate properly. It's called legacy systems. They're like pre-blockchain, right? So every industry, whether you're talking healthcare, global trade, finance, every industry that you can imagine, let's say 50 of them, for some reason I can't think of them right now, but every industry in the world is using legacy systems, whether it's the software, the data, the applications, the RTGS systems, whatever. These are all legacy systems that cannot speak to blockchain.
Yeah.
And you cannot shut off these systems to connect to blockchain. You can't turn them off for 2, 3, 4 months. You can't turn off the Bank of England, their real-time gross settlement system. You can't turn off the RTGS, the system for the whole financial system of a country. You can't turn it off for a few months while you integrate the Bank of England into DLT. These systems cannot shut off. And they're not going to shut them off. It took them 100 years to build. So if you want to, in order for the world to really adopt blockchain and get unlimited use cases and really use blockchain fully, all these use cases, all these industries which are using legacy systems need to be able to connect into blockchain seamlessly without being affected, without having to shut off. And they need to do it securely. You can't have anything go wrong here. You're talking the infrastructure for nations here, especially at a central bank level, or let's say just healthcare. You can't just merge all the healthcare into DLT. What if something goes wrong? All the data is gone. Like
Yeah.
you can't play with that. This is what you call critical national infrastructure.
Oh, wow.
Can't be turned off. It's called critical national infrastructure. That's the word they have for it. Sorry,
Oh,
I talked a lot.
no, that's so awesome, man. Yeah,
So
one of my
yes,
favorite ones.
yeah. So what he did is he first of all created the interoperability so that the legacy systems are able. Quant Overledger is an operating system, and it overlays all the blockchain. So he's killing two birds with one stone here. He's allowing all the legacy systems to connect into blockchain seamlessly without any risk, security risk, because he was one of the top cybersecurity experts in the world. And his team too. Don't even get me started on his team. My goodness. And you've done research on Quant. The
Mhm.
other thing too is that he's allowing not only all the legacy systems that exist, the whole world that exists right now, to connect to blockchain seamlessly. He's also Quant Overledger also allows you to use all the blockchains at the same time. So he allows the world to pick and choose the best features of each blockchain and build what are called MDApps. Now they call them maps, I think, but it's MDApp. So it's a multi-chain application. It picks the best features of each blockchain and you build an application with that. So now you're getting the full benefits of blockchain. You're not siloed into one blockchain because let's say you use Ethereum for the smart contract. Let's say you're doing global trade and you use Ethereum for the smart contract. Then what do? When you're doing global trade, there's a lot of steps, right? You have the payment, you have the settlement, you have the verification, there's many steps along the way when you're doing global trade. But if you're siloed and stuck into one blockchain, you're limited. You do the smart contract executes, then what? You're stuck. You can't have this flow of different steps and different events take place. So that's why I created Quant. First of all, is so that you can really fully benefit from all the blockchain, pick the best features of each blockchain, and also build a build an application with that, name that, and also allow all the systems to connect. So now we can merge the old world into the new world. We can go from the fourth industrial age that runs on legacy systems, the
Mhm.
information age, and we can merge it now into the fourth industrial age, which is AI and blockchain. And Quant Overledger is interoperable with everything. It's any to any interoperability. It can connect into any data, any type of software. Like, for example, it connects into Zapier and Make.com. It has 5,000 different applications, Excel, Microsoft Windows, any application you can think of on your computer and your phone are literally part of Zapier and Make.com. Quant is interoperability between all of those applications and blockchain. And like anything, any to any. It literally, there's like nothing like the only thing it probably can't connect to is your cat or your dog. But if you put API on your cat's tail, it'll probably connect to your, like it's any to any interoperability. It's mind-boggling. So any type of software systems that the healthcare use, it doesn't matter if it's SERP or whatever type of software, data systems, or doesn't matter. Any type of any system it connects into and it connects to blockchain. So now you can merge the two together without any security risk and without have to shut the systems down and so on and so forth. And so that's why I'm saying it's that door, right? And that's why in my videos I say if somebody's telling you there's another door that allows us to really go into this fourth industrial revolution, they're confused. It's right now there is no other door. Quant is that door.
Wow.
And while we're at it, I'll talk about the IETF. So Gilbert Verdian, CEO of Quant, approached the IETF and MIT a few years ago. So MIT, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and the IETF, the Internet Engineering Task Force, they are responsible for the internet we have today. They are the ones who have set all the protocols and development, have maintained the internet for the last 30 years. Without MIT and the IETF, the Internet Engineering Task Force, we wouldn't even have the internet today. They're the ones who helped create the HTTPS and all these different protocols and SMTP, the protocol for emails. And they're the ones who, like, this is very high level. Most
Yeah.
people don't even, I only know about them because of what I learned about Quant and I started researching to know who the heck they were. So he approached them 2 years ago, something like that, 2, 3 years ago, maybe before. And he said, we need to create a new protocol to move assets from one network to another. Not a bridge asset like XRP. It's not the same thing. It's not the same as the interledger protocol XRP Ledger. What he was talking about is the internet was not, and he wrote a paper on this 20 years ago. how the internet was not made to move value. So he approached MIT and he said, we literally need to re-architecture the internet. We need to create a new protocol at an internet level. We need to standardize it so that assets can move from one network to another. And they did. And they said, of course, yeah, you're right, we do. And they went through the whole steps that it needs to go through the IETF. It takes time. But literally, they're working like the final drafts. It's all done. I think the final draft was like 3 months ago, something like that. It's pretty much almost completed, 100%. It's called the Secure Asset Transfer Protocol. It used to be called ODAP, but it's now called the Secure Asset Transfer Protocol. And it's a standardization of it's a protocol that the Secure Asset Transfer Protocol is in the middle, and you need to have an API gateway in order to communicate with this protocol. So JP Morgan Network and Citibank, if JP Morgan wants to send a token to Citibank, so let's say Citibank is withholding JP Morgan token. Yeah, we'll hold it, no problem. JP Morgan can send their token. It goes through the Secure Asset Transfer Protocol, and Citibank can hold the JP Morgan token. Sorry, it's a standardized protocol to move assets from one network to another.
Yeah.
It's not the same as the interledger protocol in XRP when you want to bridge one asset, where you want to convert one asset to another.
Mm.
And this is the confusion between the XRP community and the Quant community, because a lot of Quant community haven't done thousands of hours in research into XRP. So they were thinking like, oh, XRP army, blah, blah, blah. And not all of them. Some of the groups I was in, thank God I got out of them because I was so frustrated, banging my head against the wall. But that's why I decided to do YouTube videos. I got to explain them like, no, like XRP is not obsolete. It's not the same thing. Quant is not replacing XRP. Matter of fact, Gilbert Verdian said, we provide the programmability, interoperability, and the custom APIs for the shared ledger. And now Gilbert Verdian is now talking on Twitter about the institutional Internet of Value, which is the same as the regulated Internet of Value. But Quant is the Internet of Trust.
Yeah.
Because it allows the whole world to connect to blockchain, and blockchain represents trust. So Quant's an overlay. It overlays all the blockchains, including the shared ledger, which is the XRP ledger, and allows everybody, like I said, to build multi-chain applications. But when it comes to settling a transaction, when you need that liquidity, when you need to go from one type of asset to another, this is the XRP ledgers that mean bridge liquidity. And we know that XLM can do the same thing, but XLM is more peer-to-peer. I don't think it's going to be remotely as big as XRP because it's not building these CBDCs like the XRP ledger is as much. So yeah, so Quant's the Internet of Trust, and XRP is the Internet of Value.
Yeah.
And Quant right now is 2,000 times, roughly, give or take, 1,800, 2,400 times cheaper than Bitcoin. How about we check, if you don't mind, just so I can give, just going to check real quick here. Market cap of Bitcoin is 2.2 trillion. Market cap of Quant is almost 1.3 billion. So it's about what, 1,800 times-ish?
Yeah.
1,800 times cheaper than Bitcoin right now. And it's literally positioned to be the Microsoft Windows of this fourth industrial age. And we have people on the internet that acting as if they know what they're talking about, saying that Bitcoin is the best opportunity. You shouldn't look at any other crypto.
Yeah. That's crazy. Huh. And one thing that I want to touch here, because there's always like those communities like fighting against each other. And recently also, just like how it happens with Quant, it also started to happen with Link, and how like all these Link Marines, how they call themselves, like their Link community, are saying that XRP, because because Link is starting to also work with the BIS, and all of a sudden they're saying that XRP is no longer going to work with the BIS, when they don't understand that they're completely different technologies and they do completely different things. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head, right? They're not even doing the same thing. That's what blows my mind. Like, it's not Chainlink versus XRP. They don't even solve the same problem.
Yeah.
I will admit that Chainlink is probably a lot bigger than the XRP community realizes.
Yeah.
But the idea of coming from the people in the Chainlink community that think they're replacing XRP is ridiculous. They don't even do the same thing.
Yeah.
Because you need a bridge asset. You need liquidity. The whole reason XRP exists is to go from one type of asset to another. And in order to do that, you need the XRP ledger, you need the interledger protocol, you need the order books, and you need to you have to have the order books, the decentralized exchange, and the automated market makers that the XRP ledger has. Chainlink doesn't have that. You have to be purposely built as a bridge currency, and you have to have the liquidity, and you have to have RippleNet. You have to have the network of institutions to have the liquidity, and everything else that the XRP ledger has: escrow, hooks, tokenization, everything. Chainlink doesn't have any of that. Chainlink is not a bridge currency. I'm not saying that Chainlink's not working with Swift and not working with the BIS or connected, but it's not the same thing at all. They're
And
not
actually,
replacing
Ripple has
XRP.
a partnership with with Chainlink,
Was,
correct?
was that, sorry?
That Ripple actually they have partnerships with Ripple and Chainlink.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like they're complementary to each other, but they're
Maybe-
competing.
Yeah. Yeah. Like it's not even the same technology at all. I would have to really dig and really understand what is the true advantages of Chainlink as an Oracle. And it doesn't take long now with AI. You can literally figure out something within an hour if you already have a basic knowledge. But yeah, it's like you said, I just agree with you 100%. It's not even the same. They're not even doing the same thing. Chainlink is not having central bank digital currency platform that central banks are building, because Ripple has a CBDC platform that central banks are building their CBDCs on. And why do they have that? It's because they're going to use the XRP ledger, the public XRP ledger, to settle transactions.
Yeah.
Chainlink doesn't have that. Chainlink doesn't even have 2% of what it needs to be that bridge currency, to be that liquidity bridge currency that XRP is, to be that internet value. It's not even the same thing.
Yeah.
They're way off because, again, it's a lack of knowledge. You can almost point 98% of the errors, or I think almost 98% of the errors in the crypto community, can be literally summed up in these two reasons, most of them: lack of knowledge and a maxi mindset.
Yeah.
I think.
When you can just like invest in the different technologies and ride the wave for all of them. That you can buy XRP, you can buy Chainlink, you can buy Quant. There's no need. There's no even you can buy Bitcoin if that's what you like, but there's no need for this fighting and this competition. That to me that's ridiculous. Like it's crazy how, because I love XRP and I talk a lot of XRP, so I get a lot of hate from maxis, which is to me is crazy. Is what are you doing? Like why? Like why is there need to compete? Because you feel threatened, or what is it? And I think it's just because they're threatened. They're really starting to realize, oh
Yes, that's
shit,
right.
these people might be right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's
Other
right.
than that,
Sometimes there's that too. I forgot that part. Yeah.
yeah. But anyways, just to start finishing up this amazing session that I have here with you, I would like to know, Jesse, what other projects are you invested on other than XRP and Quant? What other are your top? Obviously, not financial advice. This is not advice, but I would like to know what are like your top positions that you think are like what do you have and what do you think people should look.
I'm not diversified very much, I'll tell you. If I was to hold others, I would be holding like XDC, a bit of XLM.
Yeah.
I would maybe hold like a check token, CHEQ,
Oh, I never heard of that one.
because it's so dirt cheap, and they seem to have a pretty good foundation for self-sovereign identity, SSI.
Yeah.
It's called check. It's just CHEQ is the token, but the actual full name is CHEQUE. XDC, maybe a few AI tokens. Tahoe is still interesting, but I haven't done a lot of research into AI. Honestly, I'm just holding QNT and XRP right now.
Nice. Very interesting. I like that. I like that. Yeah,
So
you don't want to diversify yourself too much either. You don't want to dilute your portfolio. And also, is Jesse gonna be selling this stock? Are you gonna be taking profits, or are you gonna be accumulating more through the bear market? What is your plan?
if it goes high enough, I'll sell a bit.
Yeah.
But like I said, it's just because I think if some of these projects, if it goes very high and then XDC and Quant are still sitting at these ridiculously low price, and I might sell some. Yeah. Depending on how high it goes and how quick it goes. And I
do you
don't
think?
wanna ride a bear market again.
I know, right?
100%, no.
And what do you think is gonna be the top for XRP this cycle?
Oh my goodness, I don't know. Because I think there's evidence that they could back it to gold, right? They could peg it to gold or peg it to different commodities. I did a video on that recently there where I found oh, that was crazy. I found a document coming from the International Organization for the Securities Commission
Uh-huh.
talking about a company creating this global stablecoin. It literally describes
Oh,
XRP
wow.
to the T.
Yeah.
And it says that all these major global financial institutions would be holding different assets in these accounts all over the world. And it would be literally be backing this coin. And the value of all these assets would be equal to the value of all the tokens.
Oh, wow.
And it talked about all these different assets globally held in different financial institution accounts would be known as the reserve fund. And it would be technically backing this new global stablecoin. Describes XRP to the T.
Yeah.
And this is the International Organization for the Securities Commission. This is the international organization for the SEC in the US. Think about that.
Wow.
In 2020, they put this out.
Yeah. That's
And
crazy.
then it talks about, and that's the ISOCO, I think. IOSCO. And so this is they help with the global standards for the securities. And they're working very closely with the CFMI, Committee on Financial Market Infrastructure, which is the committee of the BIS, which is the same committee, the CPMI, Committee on Financial Market Infrastructure, is the same committee for the subcommittee of the Cross Border Payments Task Force of the BIS that I was telling you about. That report I was telling you, there's a Cross Border Interoperability Task Force.
Yeah.
That's coming from the Committee on Financial Market Infrastructure for the BIS. That's
Yeah.
the committee where we show that only Ripple is the only blockchain company on the cross border. And again, it's
Yeah.
part of this. My friends, what was I saying? I forgot to put my name if people wanted to check out my
Oh,
YouTube.
yes.
I forgot to put no, but I should have put I forgot to put because I think it's when I logged in instead of putting Apex Crypto Consulting, I didn't put. They won't find me with Jesse. I think it's
Well,
my bad.
I'll make sure that whenever this is posted, I'm gonna link to your channel.
Oh,
Uh,
nice.
but make sure that everybody that is watching this, please go follow Jesse,
Thank you.
his
Appreciate that.
Apex Crypto Consulting Group at YouTube. Do you want to give us some other links or whatever you want to have
Pretty much
people?
YouTube. My Twitter is just Apex Crypt Consult. Because I couldn't fit it all the words. It's just Apex Crypt Consult, but YouTube is my main one. Apex Crypto Consulting. Yeah. And I'm just trying to, because I just changed my name for Twitter. I think it's Apex. Is it Apex Consult? I'm sorry, but they'll find it on my YouTube. Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
No,
Yeah.
thank you, Jesse, for your time. All the stuff you shared with us today is amazing, eye-opening. I hope that a lot of people pay attention and stay all the way to the end because this is like the gems and the information that you dropped on this in this episode when in this interview have been amazing. And I believe that a lot of people should know more about this and should know more about your work because it's very valuable. And especially people in the community,
Thank
the
you, man.
XRP community, need to know more about Jesse and Apex Crypto Consulting Group, non financial advice.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, the actual name is Apex Crypto Consulting NFA, non-financial
Okay.
advice.
Exactly.
I forgot to tell you that. Sorry. Yeah.
Yes. No worries. No worries, Jesse.
Yeah,
Well,
it's an honor, Sebastian. It's really an honor, man. I appreciate this.
the
I've been
honor's
learning from
mine.
you guys. I've been consuming all of you guys' content, then I
Yeah.
just started doing a video 3-4 months ago. But an advantage that I have is that it takes a lot of time to prepare the videos, right? A
Yeah.
lot of people started preparing the videos years ago, but for me, I had the advantage I was able to consume all of you guys' content, all the amazing content creators. I was just consuming and putting the dots together. Oh, it's an honor, man. Like really, like people respect you a lot in the industry, and it's just an honor for you to invite me to talk to me. And I really appreciate what you said, man. It's
Man, the honor is mine. I think you have been doing an amazing job and keep going.
thank you, buddy.
Keep waking up people, keep supporting this community that we need people like you helping educate and open people's eyes.
Same for you, buddy. Like you told me in the email, I want to help people. They need to know the truth. At
Yes.
first, I didn't know when you reached out. I wasn't sure. And he said, "No, it's no cause. I just want to help my community. They need to know." And I was like, "Ah, this guy's awesome." Yeah, that's why I called
Yeah.
him.
Yeah. Awesome, Jesse. Let's try to do this again soon. I think that there's so much to talk about. Obviously, we've been here almost 2 hours, 2 hours and 15 minutes, but there's always so much to talk about this. And there's always more information coming, more news coming. So I'm sure we can do another one
Oh, yeah.
coming soon. And I really appreciate you, my friend. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, man. Today we made a new friend. I'm very
Yes.
blessed to be here with you. You're asking the right
Same.
questions and we're on the same page, man. You've done a lot of research too. I can see that. So
Totally.
just really blessed. We'll do it again for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, Jesse. Thank you so much. And I appreciate it.
Thank you so
Have
much,
a good one.
Sebastian.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.